Procrastination. You sit down to work, but suddenly deep cleaning your fridge feels urgent. Classic procrastination. But sometimes that delay is part of the process. Psychologists call it productive procrastination. While you're busy doing side quests, your brain's still thinking about the work you should be doing in the background, stitching ideas together like a slow cooker letting flavors blend. When the deadline looms, that pressure acts like the timer. Everything bubbles up at once. Research shows people who delay just enough often end up with fresher, more creative ideas than those who dive in immediately. It's like giving your thoughts extra marinating time before serving. But there's a line. Chronic procrastination where deadlines are missed is just sabotage. The key is balance. So if you ever find yourself dusting blinds before working on a big project, don't worry. You might just be seasoning your genius. Forgetfulness. You can solve a tricky problem at work, but then forget where you put your phone 5 minutes later. Super annoying. But research shows a little forgetfulness can actually be smart. The brain sometimes clears out trivial stuff to free space for bigger ideas. Think of it like a hard drive. Mundane files like where you left your keys or directions to that one restaurant get deleted so the system can save larger files, like creative thinking or problem solving. Even neuroscience backs this up. Forgetting helps the brain focus on important patterns instead of drowning in useless details. History is full of examples. Isaac Newton was so deep in thought he skipped meals, and economist Adam Smith wandered into his garden half-dressed, lost in ideas. But chronic forgetfulness can also be stress, not genius. Keep notes and set reminders. That way, your brain stays free for the big stuff, without losing your wallet. Disliking small talk. You're at a party, stuck in a loop of weather updates and weekend plans. Meanwhile, your brain is quietly begging for something deeper. If small talk drains you, research suggests it may be a sign of an analytical mind. Psychologists have found that people who dislike chit-chat often score high in intrapersonal intelligence, the ability to reflect deeply and value authenticity. They crave real substance, not another round of traffic complaints. For introverts especially, surface-level banter feels like background noise their brain doesn't need. Think of it like running high-performance software. You'd rather process meaningful data than waste energy on filler files. That's why some of the brightest people light up in conversations about science, art, or personal passions, but glaze over at weather reports. Of course, chronic avoidance of small talk can look aloof, but next time you're accused of avoiding chit-chats, that may be your genius mind begging for something more meaningful. Couch potato. You're sprawled on the couch binge reading for hours, and someone accuses you of being lazy. But research says otherwise. In one study, people who loved deep thinking were less physically active because their minds kept them engaged enough without needing constant motion. On the outside, it looks like nothing is going on. No thoughts and no movement. But on the inside, your brain is quietly buzzing away. For deep thinkers, their brain is using up energy and burning calories as though the body were actually exercising. Charles Darwin was famous for this. He could spend hours motionless, staring at plants or worms, yet his observations reshaped biology. The stillness was deceptive. His mind was actually racing. While exercise still matters, lounging on the couch doesn't always mean laziness. Sometimes it's just the brain getting its reps in. Bored of routine. You're 10 minutes into folding socks and suddenly questioning the meaning of life. If routine tasks make you feel trapped in a bad sequel, your brain might just be too revved up for monotony. Psychologists note that highly intelligent people get restless with repetitive stuff. Imagine a Formula One car forced to circle the grocery store parking lot. Technically, it's driving, but it was built for bigger and better tracks. That's how smart minds feel when stuck in routine. They want speed, novelty, new terrain. History even backs this up. Philo Farnsworth, who invented television as a teenager, admitted the idea hit him because he was bored with farm work. When brains like his get itchy, they invent new ways to entertain the world. Of course, not every task can be thrilling, but if you change your hobbies, like you change your underwear, don't stress. You're not flaky. You're just wired for adventure mode. Talking to pets or objects. You walk in the door and greet your dog like they've been paying rent. Or maybe you've talked to your old car driving up a hill. You got this, bro. If that's you, you're probably smarter than average. Psychologists call this anthropomorphizing, giving human traits to non-humans. While this seems silly, it's far from it. Anthropomorphizing has been linked to social intelligence. Your brain's social software is so strong, it can't help but extend empathy to pets, plants, and even your 20-year-old Toyota Corolla. It's the same instinct kids use when hosting tea parties for stuffed animals, and adults who keep doing it are just showing advanced imagination at work. Einstein himself reportedly chatted with his parrot, and NASA scientists name every Mars rover rock they study. Why? Naming and talking to things makes them feel familiar, helps memory, and even relieves stress. So next time you have a pep talk with your old car, don't feel weird. You're just exercising social genius. Unusual humor. Ever drop a joke that makes half the room laugh and the other half look like you just confessed a crime? That might be a sign of intelligence. Humor, especially quirky or dark humor, is brain intensive. You have to spot the mismatch, connect ideas quickly, and sometimes juggle multiple layers of meaning. A study found that people who appreciated morbid cartoons scored higher on IQ tests and handled the content with more emotional control. In other words, they could turn "oh no" into laughs without flinching. Dark humor, puns, nerdy references, they all demand fast associative thinking. Comedians often do this instinctively. Their quick pivots between serious and absurd reflect the same fast associative thinking researchers link to high creativity. So if your punchlines sometimes bomb, don't sweat it. You might just be playing 4D chess while everyone else is stuck on checkers. Obsessive curiosity. Your friend texts you, "What are you up to?" And you're actually halfway through a 6-hour documentary on the history of pencils. That hyper-focus isn't random. It's one of the strongest signs of an intelligent mind. Bright people don't just skim topics. They zoom in until they know everything. Psychologists call it a rage to master. Leonardo da Vinci studied anatomy by dissecting cadavers. Tolkien built entire languages for fun. Today, it might be your friend who can recite every Star Wars trivia fact or catalog bird calls like Pokemon. And while it looks useless, these obsessions actually pay off. Random trivia often cross-pollinates into new ideas. That fact you learned pencil history could lead to tomorrow's genius new business strategy. So yeah, binge researching obscure random topics at 2 a.m. might sound quirky. But in reality, you're sharpening your mental Swiss Army knife, one oddly specific blade at a time. Messy environment. Your desk looks like a crime scene. 3 coffee mugs, a stack of papers teetering like Jenga, and at least one mystery cable you're afraid to unplug. To most people, that's chaos. To science, it might be creativity in disguise. A study found that people working in messy rooms came up with more original ideas than those in tidy ones. Researchers summed it up. Disorder encourages breaking free of tradition, while neatness pushes safe choices. Translation? That pile of laundry might be fueling your next breakthrough. Einstein's desk was famously a disaster zone. He joked, "If a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind, of what then is an empty desk a sign?" Thomas Edison's lab was basically wall-to-wall junk, but out of that junk came light bulbs. Literally. So next time someone calls your room a pigsty, just tell them, it's not a mess. It's a prototype for genius. Talking to yourself. You're pacing in your kitchen muttering, groceries, laundry, world domination, and suddenly realize you've been giving a speech to the fridge. Don't worry, this is just your brain running a very efficient system. Psychologists call it self-directed speech. Saying things out loud helps organize thoughts, focus attention, and strengthen memory. In one study, people hunting for objects found them faster when they repeated the name, which means muttering keys, 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 while turning your room upside down is the best way to find them. Plenty of great minds used it too. Charles Dickens read his drafts aloud to fine-tune rhythm and catch mistakes. And Salvador Dalí, the Spanish surrealist painter known for melting clocks, used self-talk to stir up wild new ideas for his art. So if you're caught having a full-blown TED Talk to your furniture, relax. It's just your brain thinking out loud at full power. Swearing frequently. You stub your toe and unleash a string of words that would make a sailor blush. People might think you're crude, but science says it might actually be clever. Psychologists ran a study where participants had to rattle off as many curse words as they could. Turns out, those who were most fluent in swearing also scored higher in overall verbal intelligence. Turns out, swearing isn't lazy speech. It's linguistic agility with extra spice. Think about it. A wide vocabulary isn't just therefore and heretofore. It also includes knowing exactly when to drop an F-bomb for maximum impact. Writers like Mark Twain used profanity for sharp wit, and even Stephen Hawking was known to slip in mild curses to land a joke. It's language as both the scalpel and the sledgehammer. So if your friends tease you for swearing too much, just tell them you're not rude. You're multilingual in emotions. Self-criticism. You finish a project, everyone's clapping, and your brain goes, "Cool, but here's a list of 37 things I did wrong." Sound familiar? That nagging voice is a hallmark of a sharp mind. Scientists say highly intelligent people are often their own harshest critics. Why? The smarter you are, the more flaws you can actually see. It's like having 4K resolution on your mistakes. Every pixel of imperfection pops out. This hyper-awareness sometimes even leads to imposter syndrome, feeling like a fraud despite clear success. History is full of geniuses side-eyeing themselves. Marie Curie, who literally won 2 Nobel Prizes, still downplayed her achievements. When Nobel winners say, "That was fine," you know perfectionism runs deep. Sure, constant self-criticism can sting, but it's also fuel to prevent making the same mistake twice. If you're your own worst critic, it means your brain's quality control team is working overtime. Just remember to give them a coffee break once in a while. Staying up late. It's 3 a.m. The world is asleep, and you're wide awake, convinced you can solve the mysteries of the universe. If that's you, don't worry. It might be less bad habit and more big brain mode. Researchers have found that people with higher IQs are more likely to keep late hours. Evolutionarily, humans used to rise with the sun. So deliberately flipping that script, staying up long after dark, is considered an evolutionary novel behavior. Smarter brains tend to adopt these new patterns more easily. And it's not just theory. A study found that night owls scored higher on creativity and cognition activities. History backs it too. Winston Churchill ran war meetings at 2 a.m., and Nikola Tesla was infamous for midnight experiments. Apparently, genius keeps vampire hours. Of course, mornings still exist. Society will judge you at the 9 a.m. meeting. But if your best ideas show up when the clock strikes midnight, you're in good company. Doodling. You're in a meeting, nodding along, while your notebook slowly fills with cubes and spirals. People assume you're zoning out. In reality, you might be the most focused person in the room. Research shows doodling can actually boost memory and concentration. The simple act of scribbling shapes uses just enough brain power to keep you anchored, stopping your mind from drifting into full nap mode. Think of it as mental fidgeting. Your pen is pacing for your brain. History backs this up. Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks were jam-packed with sketches of machines, anatomy, and random scribbles. Steve Jobs was known to sketch product ideas. Even modern engineers use sketchnoting, combining doodles and words, to brainstorm. Messy margins often mean busy minds. So next time someone catches you drawing galaxies instead of bullet points, just say you're not bored. You're brainstorming, one squiggle at a time. If you want to learn more about surprising ways your brain works, check out this other video.